You know how some ideas are so out there, so radical, that they get laughed out of the room by serious scientists? Well, what if one of those ideas was actually right all along? We're going to talk about a concept that was dismissed for decades as scientifically impossible. But now, well, thanks to a ton of new evidence, it's making a serious comeback. So, what is this big idea? It's the concept that all life on Earth, everything from the tiniest microbe to the biggest blue whale, acts together as one giant self-regulating entity, an entity that might even be evolving. This is the Gaia hypothesis, and today we're diving into the brilliant work of W. Doolittle to see how this once heretical idea is now seen as scientifically plausible. To really get why this comeback is such a huge deal, you first have to meet W. Doolittle. He's this incredibly accomplished microbiologist and evolutionary theorist. And here's the kicker. For decades, he wasn't a champion of Gaia. Oh no. He was one of its biggest, most vocal critics. This quote right here gets straight to the heart of the problem. You see, when the Gaia hypothesis first popped up back in the 1970s, Doolittle and a whole bunch of other top biologists pointed out what seemed to be a fatal, undeniable flaw. Okay, so the whole issue basically boils down to this. Traditional Darwinian evolution, the kind we all learn about in school, needs three things. You need variation, you need selection, and critically, you need reproduction to pass on the good traits. Now, Gaia, as a system, has plenty of variation, and it definitely faces selection pressures from the universe. But how does a planet reproduce? It doesn't, and for pretty much 50 years, that was case closed. But here's the cool thing about science, right? It never just stands still, and slowly but surely, the ground underneath all those old objections started to shift. A whole host of new discoveries begin to completely repaint our picture of how evolution really works. For a long time, we had this very neat and tidy tree of life idea, where every species had its own clean little branch. But it turns out that picture is, well, it's a lot messier. Scientists started to realize that life isn't some clean hierarchy, it's more like a tangled, knotted, deeply interconnected web. And there were three key discoveries that really blew the case wide open. First, something called horizontal gene transfer. Just picture bacteria swapping useful bits of their genetic code with each other, kind of like trading apps. This totally scrambles that neat family tree we imagined. Second, community-level genomics. This new tech let us analyze all the genes in, say, a scoop of dirt all at once, and it revealed this massive collaborative genetic soup. And finally, the idea of multi-level selection started to take hold. The theory that natural selection doesn't just favor the fittest individual, but sometimes it favors the most stable and cooperative group or team. And all of this leads us to the huge breakthrough. All these messy new discoveries, they pave the way for a really radical question. What if you don't actually need reproduction for natural selection to happen? Which, of course, brings us right back to that fundamental puzzle. If Gaia can't make copies of itself, how in the world can nature select for a better or more stable version of the Earth's life system over time? Well, the solution comes from splitting the idea of natural selection into two different targets. First, you've got what are called replicators. Think of these as the raw information, the genes themselves. Nature selects for the genetic code that is just really, really good at getting copied and passed on. But then you have interactors. These are the vehicles for the genes, the organisms, the bodies, the things that actually live and breathe and interact with the environment. And for these things, nature selects for something a little different. Not just making copies, but the sheer ability to persist, to survive, to last. And this is the absolute game changer. The minute you reframe natural selection as being driven by persistence, that whole problem with Gaia just dissolves. An ecosystem, or even a planet-wide system of life, doesn't need to reproduce if it's just incredibly good at lasting, at keeping itself stable against all odds. Doolittle has this fantastic analogy to help it all make sense. It's the song, not the singers. The individual singers, the species, the organisms, they come and go. They live, they die. But the song, that stable, resilient, persistent process of life, that can keep on going and even adapt and evolve over millions of years. So, okay, let's say we buy it. Let's say Gaia is a real evolving thing. What does that actually mean for us? What are the consequences? This is where the theory gets out of the textbook and becomes, well, deeply personal and profoundly ethical. Because Doolittle argues this isn't just some abstract thought experiment, not at all. In a world that's facing the very real challenges of climate change and ecological collapse, this new way of seeing our planet forces us to make an urgent choice about where our ultimate loyalties lie. He basically frames it as a choice between three paths. Path number one, loyalty only to ourselves, prioritizing the survival of Homo sapiens no matter the cost. Path two is a bit strange, loyalty to our culture, the idea of preserving our knowledge in some kind of technosphere, a world of machines, even if the biosphere dies. Or path number three, a loyalty to Gaia itself, a commitment to the persistence and health of the entire living system. So after building this whole scientific case for Gaia as a real evolving entity, Doolittle's own conclusion is crystal clear. He argues that this third option, loyalty to Gaia, isn't just a sentimental wish, it's a scientifically warranted and philosophically coherent position to take. But this is where the ethics get really, really complex. Because if we're going to be loyal to Gaia, we have to remember what it is we're talking about. This Gaian system, this web of life, has already proven to be unbelievably tough. It has persisted through 5 separate mass extinction events. And that leads us to the final, incredibly challenging question. If Gaia is a system that has already survived 5 catastrophic collapses, we're talking asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, the works, what does it really mean for us, one single species, to be loyal to it? If we drive ourselves and a million other species to extinction, the system, Gaia, will almost certainly endure. And over millions of years, it'll just spawn new life. So what is our role? And what does our loyalty truly demand of us? That is the profound question this new science leaves us to answer.